What's up, Lore Masters? Today we'll be taking a look at a few of the support vessels of the Borg Collective, so let's just get into it. The Borg Long-Range Tactical Vessel, generally known as a Borg Sphere, was a starship that's name that was derived due to its, wait for it, sphere shape. The first encounter of a Borg Sphere, and the Borg Collective themselves, was in 2153 on Earth when the debris of the sphere was discovered by scientists. The next encounter would be in 2373 when the exact same sphere launched from a Borg cube and went back in the past to 2063. It was subsequently destroyed by the USS Enterprise E, thus causing the debris to fall to Earth and be discovered for the first time in 2153. In 2375, a damaged sphere would be boarded by the crew of the USS Voyager in an attempt to recover a transwarp coil. While we would see spheres here and there sporadically, the only other definitive time would be when a sphere came out of a transwarp hub right next to Earth in 2378. This sphere would of course be destroyed by the USS Voyager. Oh, and on that note, apparently the Borg had a transwarp exit right next to Earth, but decided to get to Earth the old-fashioned way when they attacked during the Battle of Sector 001. Because quantum, I guess. Borg spheres are significantly weaker than Borg cube counterparts. As an example, a Sovereign-class ship could easily destroy the vessel. Borg spheres were warp-capable, and they had the ability to enter into transwarp. They also had time travel capabilities, well, at least one did. Their armaments were similar to that of a Borg cube, having tractor beams, other beams, and projectile weaponry. Borg spheres would also come with standard deflector shields, ablative armor, and regenerative capabilities. Interestingly, like all of the other vessels I'll be discussing, I wasn't able to find any evidence that the sphere utilized the same subspace field technology that we see on the standard Borg cube. This would mean that a Borg sphere could not adapt to weapon fire like a Borg cube could. This opens up some interesting theories to the technology and adaptation abilities of the subspace field. But that discussion is outside of the purview of this video, and we may take a look at it some other time. A typical Borg sphere had no living quarters nor identifiable centralized systems, which is no surprise given that it's a Borg ship. It did, however, apparently have a primary shield generator because of the Voyager plotline requirements. The transwarp coils would be kept in specialized transwarp rooms that were heavily shielded to prevent theft. The ship would have up to 11,000 crew and be 600 meters in diameter. In beta canon, there would be two spheres that would achieve time travel. That would be the ship at the Battle of Sector 001, and one utilized by a cloned Locutus of Borg after the Farpoint encounter in an alternate universe. In 2379, the Borg would upgrade the Borg Sphere, making it effectively a dreadnought and extremely powerful. In the Kelvin timeline, a Borg Sphere would attack the USS Concorde in 2263, taking several of its crew and its components, though to what end has yet to be established. And for those wanting to be on Jeopardy, the Sphere appeared in Star Trek First Contact, 8 times on Voyager, and once in Enterprise. Moving on to another ship that was never really fleshed out, even though they had a great opportunity in Voyager, the Borg Probe was a scout ship and, wait for it, probe. The shape was described as elongated, and it was the match of an Intrepid-class vessel. This, again, would make it significantly weaker than that of the Borg cube. The ship would have transwarp, beam technology, and deflector shields. We do see regenerative abilities, but again, the ship didn't have the subspace adaptation fields that were discussed. In beta canon, the ship is largely known as a Borg Interceptor and is utilized to identify potential planets, starbases, and ships for assimilation or destruction. In Star Trek Online, the ship is classified as a frigate and it is the size of a bird of prey, though much more well-armed. Again, staying with beta canon, during the Borg invasion of 2381, the USS Aventine, under the command of Captain Ezri Dax, would attack and disable one of these ships to find a way to stop the Borg fleet, this fleet having ravaged most of the Alpha Quadrant. We see the ship at least once in Voyager, though it may have been observable more times than that. The Borg Scout ship was a ship that massed about 2.5 million metric tons. It was seen in the Next Generation's I, Borg, and was mentioned in Voyager. So, basically it was seen once. Well, at least a destroyed version, and it was mentioned in Voyager. Man, I thought this was going to be a hard script, but that's all we got here. God bless you, lazy writers. The last ship I'll be discussing today is one of the Borg Queen's vessel. At least it's the Borg Queen's vessel according to Memory Alpha. I'll be honest, when I first began researching this ship, I didn't consider it to be a vessel of the Queen, that it was specifically made for her. We have seen the Queen on Borg cubes, we've seen her in Unimatrix 01, and the Enterprise itself. I mean, I've never considered any of those ships to be the Queen's ship, so... The only reason it's called the Queen's ship that I can tell is because the only episode we see it is in the Voyager episode Dark Frontier. During this time, she uses this ship to take 7 of 9 to watch an assimilation of a couple of planets in process. And again, this ship was utilized when the Borg Queen attempted to seduce 7 of 9 into becoming some form of sexier version of Locutus, but there's no other reason to believe that the ship itself belonged to the Queen only. Additionally, the article states that it was heavily defended, but in that exact very same episode they used to cite this, we see it to be untrue. The ship comes into danger several different times. Queen's vessel or not, this ship was never given a formal designation, but has an octahedron shape. Its armaments would have at least torpedoes and shielding, but again, it would seem to lack the adaptive properties of the Borg Cube's subspace fields. In beta canon, the ship's described as a Borg diamond. The ship would evolve from the 22nd to the 24th century, having minor refitting changes done throughout this time. In Star Trek Online, the Borg Queen would transfer her physical consciousness into one of these actual ships, like she became the ship. In theory, if you could do that with the Borg, wouldn't she already be the ship anyway? I mean, they're all linked and they're all one, so the ship would be one with the collective who is one with the ship. And I mean, whatever, that just gives me a headache. So there is one other ship known as a Borg Type 3, but I honestly don't think this was a standard Borg ship, and I'm going to be including that in a Borg theory later on. With that out of the way, what are your guys' thoughts on these ships? Do you wish they had expanded them a bit? More fleshed out? Should the Borg have only been the cubes? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next Lore Reloaded.